Welcome to Dark Souls. Today we'll dive right into looking at one of the Souls' series music staples, Firelink Shrine. Composed by Motoi Sakuraba, this song is one of the players' first introduction to the musical world and ambience of Dark Souls. Firelink Shrine is the primary hub of the game, so the music must serve a calming atmosphere. Let's find out how Sakuraba composed this masterpiece of a song. Sakuraba is a veteran gaming composer, and his work on the Souls series demonstrates a simplistic yet powerful composing style. The chords here are quite simple, which I have labeled on the top here. The only primary featured instruments are the strings family, the violins, the violas, and the cellos. The instrument selection is quite minimal, which for a slower and somber piece as this, works tremendously. The violins are the lead instrument above all else, supplying the leading voice. Violas follow the middle line, usually only playing one note, and then cellos is really the only bass instrument in this song. Rounding out the background instruments, timpani will highlight the start of every chord change with a resounding thud. The harp, which instrument I get from the Celtic library, provides a different, ear-catching sound to pay attention to besides the strings in this song. Lastly, both the vibes and the celesta will play alongside with the harp in the second half of the song. And then finally the bell will mark the transition between section 1 and 2. Let's begin with the supportive instruments before we dive into the strings. In section 1, the timpani marks the start of each chord change with a single strike. The sound of the timpani feels subdued when struck at a lower velocity. To increase the boominess, I also doubled the timpani with a deep hit. Anytime you want to add more epicness, filling out the subregion of the frequency spectrum more will do the trick. The harp will perform these short rolled up chords, which follow the chord progressions we'll be going through. Why use rolled chords instead of playing blocked chords? It gives the harp the feeling of a human performance. Anytime we feel that a human is playing something, we connect with it easier. When composing music, we always want to bring in the human element, whether that be recording the instruments we play or adding these composing techniques into the mix. One other background instrument are the vibes. They appear in section 2 more frequently, but briefly here in section 1, They'll transition us from this tense B7 chord, the 5-7, to the 1 chord of E minor. And with the vibes. The vibraphone is a very cool and often unused instrument. It gives a nice sustained and dreamy tone. Let's head into the strings. Looking at the string section as a whole, the whole song follows a wave-like pattern. As I open up these many volume automations, notice the clear rising and falling happening with each stringed instrument. This is called a breath technique, where the music itself represents almost a living creature that can breathe. In the violins, Sakuraba will start with the second inversion of E minor, followed after that by A sus4. After leading with these opening chords, the next chord will be our 5-7 chord, the B7. And this will resolve nicely to E minor again. Notice the red hills down below, which control the expressiveness of the strings. They also follow a wave pattern. To create this lush string sound, just in the violins, I combine 3 different instruments together. The first will be a standard violin sound. The second will be our solo violin, which is necessary to achieve this expressive sound. And the third will be another strings ensemble with a different sound. Violas are next, and as you can see, they only contribute 1 note. But nevertheless, they supply a powerful mid-range presence. I combine 2 different viola instruments. Finally, the cellos also play 1 note. And here I combined again 2 different instruments. A cello ensemble first, and a solo cello for expressiveness. What's fascinating about the cello parts is that many of the chords in this song will be slash chords. What this means, take for instance this B7 over D sharp, will be that the bass note, the lowest note, will be on something other than the bass root note of that chord. A normal chord in B7 would be B in the bass, but with D sharp as the lowest note in the cellos, this gives the chord a much more tense sound. Let's take a listen to section 1, keeping in mind all the points we discussed. Section 2 is quite interesting as it has a slightly different mood, along with slowing down the pace of the song even further. The song modulates from the key of E minor in the first section to A major. Besides the timpani, all the other instruments are retained, and you'll hear that this section is marked by a bell hit down here. This is a subtle clue to the listener that they are now entered into a different section of the song. A new instrument has joined the mix, the celesta. It sounds very similar to the vibes, but has more of a twinkle sound. Both of their functions are to sprinkle a few notes here and there and bring out the magical sound of this section. The harp is also a bit different here. It will begin an octave lower and will play quarter notes, ascending the notes of the A major scale. Sakuraba leaves a lot of space at the end of each of these phrases, leaving only the harp and either vibes or celesta. This, as you can see, will repeat 3 more times in the song. The violins are reduced further to only the solo violin, which makes this section sound more intimate. Now, what's different is what we'll discuss in the violas. As compared to section 1, the violas are more flush and fill in the missing space for the violins in this section. They'll begin first with this F-sharp minor chord, then moving to another slash chord, the A over E, which I'll play with every instrument here. The third chord will be an A over D, which is a beautiful chord. And then lastly will be an A over C sharp. Notice how we keep using that A chord throughout all these changes, but only change that bass note, descending 1 note down for each of these chords. This last tense A over C sharp is then resolved to a resolute C sharp major chord. Let's listen to section 2 in full. Firelink Shrine represents a place of reprieve from the dreadful world of Dark Souls. Yet there is also a mournfulness for humanity and what was lost. This is the perfect piece for the player to reflect about the events occurring in Dark Souls. I want to thank all the people on Patreon who have supported our mission to uncover the tips and tricks behind the greatest pieces in video game music. These include Kevin Huin, Sam Hanley, Manish Corona, Dennis Mowers, Justin Chin, and Alan Brown. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next episode of Music Design.